Welcome to the first of many videos around our anatomy and physiology course. This course is going to be designed to be an upper level high school or an introductory level college anatomy and physiology series of videos. If you like to have some more tangible notes in front of you as you watch the video, there'll be a link below for not only the PowerPoint slides that I'm using, but also a guided reading that follows the video, and that way you can kind of be more active and be more interactive, I should say, as you're watching the video on anatomy. Treat this as like a great way to introduce the topic to you, to see if it's something you want to learn more about, or maybe to see if it's a course that you might be interested in taking and following along in the future. So hey, without any others, let's start with defining what is anatomy and what is physiology.
Right. So first up, anatomy is going to relate to structure. And so in living things, they all have different anatomies, and that means that they have structures inside of them. So for humans, you have a bicep muscle and a humerus bone that's underneath it, and the different tendons and ligaments that connect those onto it. Those are all example of anatomical features or structures inside of your body. So these can be both internal and external. Physiology would be the function of those body parts. Okay, I mentioned the bicep and the humerus. The physiology of that would be how does that bicep actually flex and pull on the ulna, contracting that muscle. And when we talk about physiology, it is how do those body parts function, or how does that work? All right, so that's basically all it is. Anatomy and physiology, we're going to be looking at structures of living things and how those structures function. We're going to be spending the vast majority of our time talking about human anatomy because we're humans and we're biased, and that's more interesting to us. And it's also a better intro to health-related fields and those kind of things. But you could look at anatomy of horses or fish or a variety of other organisms as well. One thing with anatomy and physiology that I've always found fascinating is that those two things go very much hand in hand, but it's physiology that comes around first. All right, so as we talk about how species have changed over time and evolution and natural selection, it's always the function that's driving those features. And so, for example, we're omnivores, and so our teeth have a variety of different shapes. They have those different shapes because we're omnivores, not the other way around. It wasn't like we had the mutation that someone was born with these teeth and they decided, hey, I'm going to start eating a variety of things now. No, we were eating a variety of things now, and our structures changed in order to better adapt to those functions. So structure is always going to follow function when we're looking at it from an evolutionary standpoint, and then that function is determined by natural selection. So all those things are really closely related, and they all go hand in hand. So there's anatomy, the structures of living things, and there's physiology, the functions of those living things. The other thing that we should talk about are the different kinds of anatomy. We're going to be covering some of these in class. And so microscopic anatomy would be structures that cannot be seen unless you have a microscope. So think about cells. We have a variety of lessons that we've done on cells. So cytology, you can only see those anatomical structures with a microscope. And then histology is one that we're going to spend a decent amount of time on, and that would be looking at human body tissues. So I mentioned muscles, but we can zoom in on those muscles and we can see that those muscle tissue they have a variety of different structures within there. So we have microscopic anatomy, and then we have gross or macroscopic anatomy. Now gross doesn't mean like EU gross. Gross means large. All right, so visible with your eyes. And so gross or macroscopic anatomy would be relatively large structures that can be seen. Examples of these would be on the surface. So we're going to be talking about body regions. Regional anatomy, so inside of your abdominal cavity. Systemic, okay, you have a nervous system. What are the anatomical structures inside of your nervous system? And then some other examples of anatomy that we don't dive as deeply into. Maybe someday we'll get into these when we get down the road, but there's developmental anatomy, so inside of embryos and how things are developing from a young age. There's comparative anatomy. We do a little bit of that in our biology class, where we're looking at how do structures on different mammals compare. Side note, comparative anatomy is what enables us to dissect things like sheep hearts and sheep brains and fetal pigs, and we can still learn something about humans because those anatomies can compare and have a lot of similarities. And then clinical anatomy, we have a variety of other things that are lumped into this clinical anatomy. So that's more anatomy that's focused on in the healthcare fields, if you want to think of it like that. So surgical anatomy, radiographic anatomy, cross-sectional anatomy, all these things that you would maybe come into contact with if you were a healthcare professional studying a particular aspect. Okay, so big lesson for the day, big takeaway: anatomy is structure, physiology is function, and that structure is always going to follow that function. And that's a great intro to human anatomy and physiology.